what happened to Dauntless, and subsequently, what happened to OhDough? These are great questions. Let's go ahead and find out. In Dauntless's case, what happened was two things: improper change and lack of change. So initially, there was a lack of change. During Dauntless's console launch, which was the most popular the game's ever been, ever was, and most likely ever will be, there was a lack of change. Nothing was added that was meaningful enough to keep players interested. We had a decent hunt pass, it was like the ninja hunt pass or whatever. We had the addition of trials, but the thing with trials was made for the top 1% of players. It was made for the in-game player, and even for these players, it sucked. I was an in-game player. I could do trials. I didn't like them. I didn't enjoy it. It was rage-inducing. It felt like I wasn't playing Dauntless. I was playing Dark Souls, and not Sekiro, and not Shakiro, right? With the sword and whatnot. That game is cracked. I enjoyed that game. It was like I was playing Dark Souls 1, 2, or 3. I don't like those games that much. It's not fun. Not enjoyable. And it's like, what are we doing? We lost vision of what the game was, it felt like. And the lack of change was they had trials, and trials kept rotating monsters. And these monsters were new for a while. And that was, I think, the devs' way of saying, there's content. There's new trials every week. If you were to beat it every week, once you beat it one time, you're done. There's no point there's no point in doing it over and over again. You're done. Where's the replayability aside from keep playing until you don't get one shot and you kill it? That's the replayability. Not to mention, during this time we had the God Hand Infinite glitch. You had a laser beam from God making s'mores when you're AFK shooting a behemoth until it died, and it took you 0 effort. So bunch of new players witnessing these absolute turbo Virginians using this glitch. Not a good look. That did not get fixed for months. Nice. We fast forward a bit. For months, nothing changed. Nothing of meaning was added to Dauntless, even though we had all these new players, all this popularity, yada, yada, yada. Nothing meaningful was added. We get escalation at one point in time. Escalation was effing sick. Oh, wait, we also got, what is it, Mastery? But after Mastery, we get Escalation. Escalation was freaking sick. This revived a lot of the previous enjoyment that players had for Dauntless. Especially for me. I really liked playing Escalation. It was so much fun. The first Escalation was Shock, and then Blaze, and so on and so forth. Shock was the best escalation the game added for a couple reasons. Malkarian, which was the Keystone Behemoth, wasn't it. It was more so the amps. Amps are what make escalation so much fun, and Shock Escalation just had really fun amps because they offered so much crazy damage. Damage is a big part of Dauntless. The whole point of the game is to fight behemoths, so subsequently, doing more damage to said behemoths makes sense, and that's the end goal for most players. Keep that in mind. It's very important to understand. So, Escalation was sick. Great time. Bunch of new stuff going on. A bunch of, as a content creator, you're making so many views because there's so many players interested in how they can better interact with the game, right? We go forward a little bit, escalation's popping off, whatever. And then we get to a point where the biggest change is being made to Dauntless, I feel. And that was Reforge. So, Dauntless Reforged. They add a prestige system. If you do not know, if you're not familiar with what a prestige system is like, look at Call of Duty. Call of Duty had a prestige system where you get max level 50 in most cases, level 55, and then you can reset your progress. You go back to level 1, you get a new badge, which is cool, and it's like a notoriety thing. Players are like, damn, that guy's a high prestige. That's cracked. And you also lose all of your guns for the most part. You get reset to whatever guns are at your level, aka level 1. You lose your attachments, you keep your camos and skins and stuff, and now you have to go through it all again. And it's a PvP game, mind you, so it was fun, at least for me. I loved it. I loved the prestige system so much in Call of Duty. It was super enjoyable. But they added that similar thing to Dauntless, and it didn't really play out the same way because one's PvP, the other's PvE. Vastly different ways, and it's just the replayability is so much more vast in a PvP game just because you're fighting other players that have different actions versus playing PvE, you're fighting AI that has set actions. And it got really boring, just doing the same thing over and over again and not really working towards anything that meaningful. That's the thing. The replayability and the gameplay loop is going to be very similar in most games. You're doing the same thing over and over again, but it's like how you're doing it and what are you working towards is what makes the game more fun to play. In Dauntless's case, it just, there's nothing to work towards, and you were doing a very boring thing over and over again, fighting low-level monsters, doing very little damage, nothing to really build up to, nothing awe-inspiring whatsoever. And, not to mention, you go past this point where reforge is just kind of nothing. You also have the, you have this thing where if you reforge, you're level 1, and you can't really play with your friends unless they also reforge, because let's say you want to do escalation. Escalation 10 to 50, you're level 1. Unless you're a really good player, you're just going to die all the time because you're getting one shot by everything because you're level 1. That isn't fun for the average player, dude. And you have to schedule your time around whether or not you reforge. Schedule your gaming session in Dauntless around whether or not you go back from 20 to level 1. It's just not something that was really for the casual. It was made for, I suppose, the in-game players, and that's an issue. Like they kept making content that wasn't catered toward casuals whatsoever, and that's necessary in games. You have to do that unless you're a From Software game, in which case you just make Dark Souls games, which is fine. But Dauntless wasn't popular because it was very difficult. It was popular because of the combat. It was popular because of the art style and things like that. We go forward. And this is the nail in the coffin. This is what really cemented Dauntless in this sort of like weird purgatory of not being super popular, but also not being dead. And that is, to me at least, the nerfing of amps in escalation. This was one of the most tilting changes I've ever seen in a video game ever. They nerfed Field and Impact. They made it more rare. They nerfed Field the Hunt. They nerfed all these amps that really made escalation fun. I'm not doing escalation for many other reasons aside from trying to see how crazy I can make my damage be. Taking the right build, trying to get the right amps with the RNG, all these things. Just trying to see how crazy I get my damage. And the funniest part about this is I'm not alone. My most popular video on YouTube for my main channel is one where I'm trying to one-shot Malkarian using these amps they nerfed. And they just were like, oh, people want to do this? You want to do this? People will watch it. So as a Dauntless content creator, you can get views making this kind of content, and people want to try and do that themselves. Let's go ahead and nerf it. Yeah, that makes no sense. I'm so sore. Ow. Anyway, yeah, it made no sense. Like, maybe the reality is that Dauntless is what happened in Dauntless was it just makes no sense. Like, the changes made no sense. The lack of changes and the improper changes just don't add up, and I don't understand why. Like, why'd they happen? Who are they making these changes for? Like what are they trying to think about when they're making these changes? And we just got to this. We got to the point we're at right now, where Dauntless is just not popping off. It's not dead, but it doesn't make me want to play it right now. There is going to be an update on the 26th of May. I'll be trying that out, but aside from that, I haven't logged in the game in months. In at least 2 months, I think. There's no reason to. Nothing is drawing me to play it. So what happened to OhDough? Well, the same thing that happened to Dauntless. OhDough is Dauntless, I suppose. Like, I built my channel on one single game. So now when I don't make content for that game, I just don't have folks that are interested in watching my content. So I had to make a second channel, more OhDough. I made a TikTok, OhDoughless, where I could post content and actually see progression and actually have fun. Now, on the main channel, I think I do want to start posting more content. I'll try and post, like, I guess, review videos to an extent on new games that I think are fun. For instance, V-Rising. I think tomorrow I'm buying the early access Poggers, and we're going to see how that plays out. Hopefully it's decent, preferably good, but we'll see.